This is an original Ford GT40, one of 7 made for the street.
Wait a second. I thought the GT40s had the triangular exhaust tips and the big wing that came up.
It's the Mark III.
Okay.
Okay. And there was part of a plan to build these cars for the street, but they only ran off 7 of them.
Wait, you're saying they only ran off 7? They only made 7 of these? 7, not 7-0, 7. 7. We're looking at one of 7. This is yours?
It is.
This
7
is
of these were built.
There's 7. That's the last customer car. Ford never sold the last one. They kept it, and Ford Heritage in England still owns the last one.
So that's number 6.
6 of 7, and the 7th one they never sold. Walter Hayes was the MD of Ford of Europe at the time, and he drove it as an everyday car.
As an everyday car?
Yeah, Walter Hayes drove it.
How many miles does it have on it?
It had, well, I found that in a museum in Bewley, in Hampshire, and it had 5,000 miles on it. It'd been sitting in a museum for 35 years.
So he drove it 2 miles every day.
Let me back up. That Walter Hayes car, Ford still owns.
Oh, that's the one. Okay, I'm sorry.
Sir Max Aitken bought this car new, also known as Lord Beaverbrook, who owned the London Times.
You drove this here today?
Oh, hell no.
Okay. I mean, a lot of these cars are driven here today. I didn't.
My God.
Do you drive it?
I do most of the miles that I put on. It's got 7,000 miles on it now. I've been a pace car at the Goodwood Revival. It's done that 5 times.
In England.
In England. So
How do you get it there?
fly it?
How do you fly it there?
We just put it on a 747-400 freighter. So the last time it went on a 747-8.
That's pretty cool.
Well, it's just fun. I don't trust the cargo containers to put them in because it takes a long time to get them there and they get lost. But you put them on a 747 freighter and you know it's going to get there and it gets there the same day.
My question for you, though, is they ran off 7. This was the street version of the first 2 series of the GT40, which were dedicated race cars. Why did they only make 7 and stop there? Was there a plan to market this as a street car?
Well, I don't think anybody's really answered that, but I've got an opinion, of course.
Go for it.
They were $18,500 in '68.
That's what I was going to say.
They were about twice the price of a Ferrari or a Maserati. And if you ever drove one on the street, they're not a lot of fun to drive on the road. They're hot. I mean, really hot. Motor doesn't get hot, but the inside does. And that's why I think they didn't sell very many of them. And at one time, the Peterson Museum's got one of the Mark III's. Mm-hmm. And being a publishing company, they've got all kinds of magazines like Car and Driver. And in 1970, they did an article on these. It's called Mayhem in Manhattan. And the guys at the Peterson sent me the article, or sent me the magazine. And there were 3 of them at a Ford dealership in Manhattan for the price of 1.
Wow.
And they still couldn't sell them.
Wow.
And there's a picture in that article of them driving one of them in Manhattan. I can't imagine driving that in Manhattan with the doors off.
Wow. Can we see the interior and stuff? So the car you're saying was basically they only made 7 of these, or they only sold 7 of these, or 6 of them really. Ford kept 1 of them. It had a lot of the features of the Ford GT race car, but it's missing the triangular tailpipes, exhaust, and that wing. And you're saying it's not a fun car to drive because it's so hot.
It's a light car. I think it only weighs 2,200 pounds. Mid-engine, so the steering, it's really light steering. And it's fun to drive other than being so darn hot. But on the track, because I mentioned it's been a pace car at the Goodwood Revival 5 times, and it is just fabulous on the track.
Excalibur Slayer, hi, how you doing? Wanted to know if this was the original color. I imagine this is the original paint.
Well, we had to paint it. But when I found it in the museum in Bewley, it was an untouched original car, still had the original Goodyear tires on it. We took it, I didn't even sit in the car, but finally bought it. They didn't own the car. A woman in Ipswich, England owned it. We took it to a shop called CKL Developments in Battle in East Sussex, and we dismantled the car. We didn't restore it. We just took it apart. We even took the instruments apart, and my senior mechanic, a guy named Barry Burgess, did all the work on it. But to the paint, we couldn't save the paint. It was beyond saving. The interior, you can see, is all original. but we used a spectrograph to measure the color of the paint. It's called, I've got the build sheet. Actually, the build sheet's in that little book. The color is called amaranth. So we used a spectrograph on the original paint, took it to a paint shop in Hastings in East Sussex, and the guy laughed at us, and he said, man, I got this paint on the shelf. It's 67 Ford Fairlane Imperial Maroon. So it's just Ford paint.
Wow.
It wasn't anything special. But the name was special, Amaranth, which is what Ford Advanced V.
Very special. I noticed it's a right-hand drive. Did they do that for all of the vehicles?
I think two of the Mark IIIs were left-hand drive, and the other 5 were right-hand drive.
Very cool. Would it be possible to show us the engine?
Sure.
The viewer said that a lot of the car manufacturers back then would make street-legal versions of their race cars to sell to the public, and in very small numbers.
Actually, the new Ford GT over there and this, there's some real similarities. This was just a race car, GT40 Mark I. They made 7 Mark IIIs. They're going to make more than that, but that started life as just a race car that Chip Ganassi runs out of the shop in Indianapolis. So that's just a street-going race car. It's the same thing on this. So real similarity between the two.
It's absolutely stunning.
What motor is in here?
It's a high-performance 302. It's got a little 715 Holley carburetor on it, 4-barrel carburetor.
So it's a 302, not a 289.
They did 2. I'd have to go back and look at the book. They might have done 3 302s, and the other ones were 289s.
Because right around that time, 67 to 68, the 289 became the 302. They just opened it up a little bit, yeah. But it was a basic Ford engine, and also it had for international competition, they had to stay under 5 liters, didn't they?
I think they did.
Yeah.
One of our viewers says, doubts that you've ever had this thing very fast. I think that that's not the truth. You tell us how fast you've had this.
Well, at the Goodwood Revival, I think it's a 2.4-mile road course, and as a pace car, they call them course cars, we take passengers around to Lord March and Ford Motor Company, because I'm a guest of Lord March and Ford when I'm there, and we can do anything we want. So on the straightaway, there's a little kink in the straightaway approaching a corner called Woodcut, about 145 miles an hour, and it's still pulling hard, and then you brake hard and down to second gear, so you go, and I don't get it in 5th, it's 4th gear doing that, so it's got more top end than that. So 4th, 3rd, 2nd around that bend, and then there's a chicane that goes on the pit straightaway, and then it's foot down and off you go again.
And so you have to be first of all, you're going 4th, you're stopping in 3rd, or you're skipping 3rd, because it's in these older cars, sometimes you had to stop in 3rd.
This has got a semi-sequential box, so you have to run through the gears.
So you have to go 4th, 3rd, 2nd.
On the straightaway approaching Woodcut corner, I don't ever get it in 5th because it's not a long enough straightaway to do that. I mean, maybe a professional driver would. So it's 4th, 3rd, 2nd around that series and through a chicane and onto the pit straightaway.
You say a professional driver, but with this car, you have to be a very good driver. You cannot, especially at those speeds and making that maneuver.
I still keep my FIA competition license. Wow. So you're right. You better be a good driver doing it.
This is so... you could put a number on what this would be worth, but it's really priceless. Do you ever get nervous?
Nah. I don't intend to break it, and I know a little bit about mechanical stuff. But
how much horsepower?
This one is listed at 306 horsepower. And when we did the engine in this, a GT40 engine guy who now does World War II airplane engines, he's moved on, but I brought him out of his shop, again in East Sussex, to do this engine. And we could have warmed it up and got a lot more horsepower, but the book listed at 306.
So that's what you kept it to.
So it's just such a nice original car, I really didn't want to do anything to it.
The other thing that we should point out here, that's the trunk.
It is. I'll open it up for you.
Wait, so you would open this whole hood and they gave you that as storage because this was a street car. They should have just skipped that part, Matt. I feel like there's no point in having a briefcase.
Well, I'll tell you why I pointed out the trunk.
Yeah.
Because on these cars, again, FIA rules, to compete in the 24 hours of Le Mans and other races, you had to carry a spare tire, and you had to have a second seat, because they were considered sports cars.
Well, and something else, if you look at a Mark IV that won Le Mans in 1967, I believe beside the spare tire, they had 2 little luggage boxes.
Yeah.
When you open up the deck like this.
And in a lot of cars, you had to, when we talked about before about how race cars they'd make production cars, it's because they had to in a lot of cases. You had to make a production car. It's famous about Enzo not caring about making Ferraris, but he had to be able to not only finance the race team, but also to be able to qualify to compete.
Well, that's true, and I know at Shelby American in '65, Carroll Shelby decided he was going to put a 427 in the Cobra, and Ford wouldn't let him have the all-aluminum 390, so he put a 427 in it, and he was going to make 50. But the FIA showed up at Shelby American and only had 19, and they wouldn't homologate them, so Carroll Shelby stopped on the 427 comp cars at 19, and the other 31 became 427 SCs.
Wow.
So you're right.
Now, before we let you go, Corgi Beats says, what are the other shows that you take this car to? And it is quite an effort to transport. He explained before it's you fly it on a 747, 700 or 800.
The new ones are 747-8s, but this came back, the last time this actually came back in December because it normally stays in England, came back on a Cargo Lux, it's a Cargo Luxembourg, so it's short for 747-400, in from Stansted in England to Atlanta.
It's quite a feat. And what other shows do you go to?
This has been at Pebble Beach, Amelia Island. The first event it did was in, I think it was 2012, the Windsor Concours in Windsor, England, just north of London. So it's done several events.
This is absolutely stunning. Thanks so much for letting us see it. Would it be possible that I could just get into that driver's seat and give everybody a...
Let me show you how to do it.
Okay, that would be amazing. Matt, you're going to have to talk us through that. Shoes are okay. I'm going to give you my Unity.
Yeah.
Step up there. All right. Yep. I'm going to give you the chat room as well. Chat, I'll be back. It is a cool car, I agree. Okay, lower myself down. I see this. This is a trick. This would make it a non-everyday car, by the way. All right, so then I got to lower. Yep, just right in the seat. Wow, this is not easy. No, I'm stuck. I'm totally stuck. Oh, there we go. I'm in. I'm sorry about that. He's breathing hard. He doesn't breathe hard when he drives it at 145, but when I squeeze in, he breathes hard. I'm good, right?
You're good.
Okay, look at this. Oh, my God. I cannot imagine driving this car.
Try to get me
You're
in there. I
sitting
need
very
the Dan
low,
Gurney hump on the
and you're in. It's like you're in a bucket, but it's amazing. And you can see over the dash very nicely. You've got your RPMs right in front of you. Your speedometer is all the way over here because it doesn't really matter.
See why they were so successful.
Fast is how fast you're going.
When you really put them
And then you've got fuel and you've got engine temperature and oil pressure. You've got a battery meter, which is interesting. This is absolutely beautiful. It's like being in a cocoon. I feel like I'm in a cocoon. I could feel how hot this could get. I would love you to close the door to see how hot it really would get. Would you mind? I would love to see what it's like in here with the door closed. You know, I'm a short guy. I don't worry about being claustrophobic, having my head get hit, but this is oddly uncomfortable. Now I definitely cannot imagine driving this, and especially it's a right-hand drive. I'd have to shift with my left hand. Wow. All right, that is unbelievable. Thank you so much. That was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. And I see exactly what you're saying, that this is going to be a hot car to drive and a hard car to drive. This was very special. This was a special treat. This was unbelievable.